TIL that air traffic controllers get a break every 2 hours. When controllers remain on position for more than 2 hours without a break, performance can deteriorate rapidly, even at low traffic levels. I learned this dynamic from the movie Summer Rental. 6. 5/10 would watch again on YouTube with ads. Spent a shift in the tower in Phoenix, Arizona with my uncle in the late 80s. I thought it was cool, but by the end of the shift, even I felt some of the stress from the other controllers. I always hear that being a controller is one of the most stressful jobs, but I used to live with a controller and was friends with 2 more at the time, and they all seemed incredibly chill and made it sound like their job wasn't all that hard once you got the hang of it. This thread is a little old, but in case anyone sees this. This is actually called the vigilance decrement, and it does happen to everyone. If you have a job that requires sustained attention, it is absolutely necessary to take breaks as often as you can. This can even happen while driving. Humans suck at maintaining attention for as low as 15 minutes in certain situations. Any flight controllers who can give personal experience on how quickly it feels like those 2 hours go. Such a stressful job. ATC in the US are unionized. NATCA. This is a good strategy for any 8-hour shift. Work 2 hours. 15 minutes break. Work 2 hours. Lunch. Work 2 hours. 15 minutes break. Work 2 hours. GTFO, yup, my dad was an ATC for 30 years. He's probably the most chill person I've ever met, and it was still stressful for him. Y'all seen Breaking Bad? Yeah, they need to decompress. We wouldn't allow our employees to take breaks if lives weren't at stake. These guys and girls are real badasses. It's like playing speed chess with real people. So do we. ATC here. Yeah, it's usually around an hour during a busy push, and I'm already not sharp anymore. 2 hours and your brain is completely mush, though you can slog through it using what basically becomes an analogy to muscle memory, but with your brain and mouth. This is probably true for several jobs, but ATC have one of the most stressful jobs, and a fuck up is disastrous. If I fuck up, my VLOOKUP just shows a #ref error. I feel like this is true for all jobs, and everyone should get breaks every 2 hours. When anyone does anything for more than an hour, their performance can drop. Plenty of research showing regular breaks improve productivity. And yet my surgeon wife is expected to work 8 to 10 hours without a break or lunch. You can tell which industry takes safety more seriously. Reminds me of what I'd heard about UN interpreters, and presumably others that interpret in real time, that they need to work in short shifts to prevent brain burnout. So it's actually a rotation of several interpreters at a time. Every worker should be given a break every 2 hours. I think this job has one of the highest suicide rates in the Air Force, or armed forces in general. Absolutely critical. It makes me think how those Canadian ATCs felt after September 11th. Probably a fucking mess, considering a lot of large planes landed at small airports that never have that kinda traffic. Heck, I only work for 2 hours a day. Our facility is better staffed though. So I'm a single pilot IFREMS helicopter pilot. It truly is a thing of beauty when it's super crappy out and all the pilots and controllers have a smooth flow. I always appreciate the amount of professionalism on the radios. As a former air traffic controller, I can confirm this is true. Before Reagan fired a bunch of them, the strikers got a 2-day break in 1981. Probably the longest break they've ever gotten. Good reason to strike, big cost, though. 2 straight hours of constant concentration is actually really fucking hard. Probably because of the basic rest and activity cycle phenomenon. Gotta rebalance those brain salts every 90 to 120 minutes. Ultimate Tetris. I've seen enough Breaking Bad to know where this could go. ATC is one of the most stressful jobs in the world, and from my flying experience I completely understand why. These guys don't deserve nearly enough credit. Meanwhile, doctors in some institutions are made to pull off 36-hour shifts without so much as 5 minutes to sleep or eat. Absolutely right. A single air traffic controller can be in charge of a number of passenger plane safety and thousands of lives at any one time. I would never want that job however much it paid. They are among the few jobs that can discriminate based upon age. These are the things I think about when I see pop news articles about flying cars. Yeah, let's throw those in the mix. My neighbor was an air traffic controller for 25 years. He retired and keeps busy doing odd jobs that hold his interest, think bar back, lawnmower etc. He applied at the local college to work in the ID printing office. They asked him how he handles pressure with the example of multiple 18-year-olds crying demands. He responded that he successfully landed 45 planes on September 11 in under 2 hours and they gave him the job. I always make sure to include please/thanks when radioing to ATC. These men and women work very hard, especially in the airspace around the San Francisco Bay Area, and they deserve the pleasantries. Yep, my aunt was an air traffic controller. Scheduled breaks, nap areas, etc. Making six figures in the 90s, and she quit and became a teacher instead. Money wasn't worth the stress to her. I'm familiar with private airport that was one of the busiest in the state with a flight school with many foreign students, so an enormous amount of takeoffs and landings and had its own FAA control tower. I may have had an visit to the tower and they deserve those breaks and that pay. I can see where learning proper radio technique could be hard, but those guys deal with amazing amounts of detail tossed at them from every direction, often by various accents who aren't native English speakers, and occasionally by very panicky students who are freaking out and keep reverting to their native language. Hats off to them. N90 would like a word. Someone explain why this is the case for air traffic controllers, but it's fine if your surgeon/doc has been awake for 48 hours or more and is treating you. Why the fuck haven't we increased the amount of docs in med school or residency caps so that we can stop 3-day shifts and reduce the nearly 300,000 deaths from medical mistakes each year, likely caused by physicians running on fumes? And that's why the US Navy forces the operators in their nuclear power plants to sit a 6-hour watch, usually twice a day. Oh wait. Bullshit. Maybe in the FAA, but military ATC doesn't give a fuck. I've worked 8 hours straight, edit routinely on weekends and hours at a time under other circumstances wasn't uncommon. Depends on manning. And as far as being stressful goes, the culture is the worst part of ATC. Operationally, it's really not that bad. It's been really hyped up over the years. This ain't the 80s no more. ATC are also forced to retire by the age of 56 because humans cognitively peak at 35 and become too much of a liability past 56. Honestly, we should set age limits of 65 for all political seats as well. As I'm sure has been said a million times already, I think we all should take a break every 2 hours. It's just that air traffic control is such an important job they actually do it. Basically the case with all repetitive jobs, just that for most of them the drop in performance is acceptable and doesn't kill people, usually. This makes me think about overworked and sleepless doctors in hospitals, specifically surgeons. A casino I used to work at would have the dealers take a 20 minutes break every hour. Check out the movie called Pushing Tin with John Cusack and Billy Bob Thornton. I can sit back and watch air traffic controllers work for hours. They operate like they are directing an orchestra. It's very impressive. You can tell when they're getting near break time. I've told a couple of them to go take their break when they were being short and unpleasant. That being said, I couldn't do their job. Dealing with us dickhead pilots all day? No thank you. I've always said that you age at the rate of pi when listening to LaGuardia ground control, and I bet that isn't too far from the truth. Oh, and BTW, they're the youngest mandatory retirement age federal work group in the country at age 55. I can see why. They take a lickin' and keep on tickin'. Nice job, y'all. Respect.